Hello everybody. How is everyone today? Welcome in. Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. Hopefully you did some fun things over the weekend. And I'm just pulling up my chat here to see who is all with us today. Hello everyone. Nice to see all the familiar names in the chat. Thank you guys all for joining us here today. If you did not see our announcement in our Discord server, first of all, make sure that you guys jump over there to join that community. I know we've got so many different communities here right now, but it's going to be beneficial to you guys to be part of all of our different communities. But I do post in Discord. I post up exactly what we're going to be working on every day when we go live here. So today I posted that we are going to be doing some fundamentals with gel. Now, there's a lot of miscommunication or misunderstanding when we talk about gel. We talk about hard gels, we talk about soft gels, we talk about gel polishes, and they are different things. So I'm going to get into that a little bit as we go here today. But today's focus is going to be more of the hard gels, using the sculpting gels, the building gels, and building an actual gel extension. So that's what we're going to be working on today. So if you guys want to work along with me, it's going to be a great opportunity for more of a step-by-step today. So make sure to grab your Synergy gels and we'll go ahead and get started. So first thing you always want to start with is pushing back your cuticles. And I know this is a trainer hand. I know she doesn't really have a cuticle on there, but I always recommend to, even just on your trainer hand, practice pushing back that cuticle, at least getting yourself into that routine of that step. I think a lot of times if we forget or if we don't actually practice doing that on our trainer hands, when we do get to a real person, sometimes we will forget those steps. And this actually is a very common thing when we get to our protein bond. I'll talk about protein bond in a little bit, but I think that's one of those things that people don't necessarily practice when they're working on their trainer hand, and then they do tend to forget to do that on a real person. So always make sure, go through, do every single step that you're doing on a real person, do that on your trainer hand so that you get in that same routine, okay? Now, the next step of our prep is we're going to remove the shine from that natural nail. I'm going to put in my mandrel here, and let me find my sanding bands here. I'm going to grab a brand new, nice and clean, nice and new grit to our sanding band here. Always make sure that you're using a brand new sanding band so that you do have that proper grit to the bit and that you're going to have a nice clean bit to be using here. Okay, we're going to turn our electric file to about 5,000 RPMs. I would say anywhere between 4,000 to 6,000 is about what you want to be using. And we're going to go right up around that cuticle area. So now that we've pushed back the cuticles, we've really exposed any dead protein growth or any dead cuticle that might still be stuck on the nail. So that's why we go up around that cuticle to remove that protein growth. And then I'm just going to feather my bit all the way through the whole rest of that nail to remove the shine from that nail, break up those surface oils on the nail, and to give that nail just a little bit of texture. And then, you guys, I forgot one more light here. Let me bring in another light to get a little bit of a better, there we go. I think that's going to look a little bit better for you guys. Let me know in the chat. Did that make a difference? I hope it did. All right, next thing we're going to do for our prep is I'm going to dust that nail off. You know what, guys? I'm going to go through and I'm going to shape up that free edge just a little bit, just to give me a little bit of a smoother free edge. And when I'm shaping the free edge, I don't necessarily spend a ton of time on that. I don't need to make that completely perfect, but I just want to give it just a little bit more of a shape so I don't have those little edges poking out or anything like that. Oh, good. That little extra light helped a little bit. Good. That makes me very happy. I want you guys to be able to see everything really well here today, especially because we are going through a lot of some basic ideas and basic fundamentals with your gels. So I want you guys to see really well here today. All right. So again, we dusted off that nail. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our swipe. Swipe is our cleanser. I'm going to pump a little bit of that onto my manicure brush. And we're going to use that to really cleanse that nail. And swipe is going to take off any of those last little pieces of dust that maybe we didn't get on the first time around. And it's also going to help remove any of those surface oils. So anything that was left on that surface, it's going to remove, and that's also including any germs or bacteria. So we want to make sure that when we're applying our gel to our nail, we're going to have a nice clean, dry surface without any germs, without any bacteria, so that we don't end up with any greenies or bacterial infections on that nail. So once you've done your prep, that nail should look fairly clean and dry, okay? Shouldn't really have any shiny spots to it. Should have a little bit of texture to it. So just like you're seeing here, now I do see as I move that nail, there's one tiny little bit of shine right on that free edge. I'm just gonna grab that with my hand file really quickly just to make sure it's nice and clean. And then I'm gonna scrub that one last time with swipe again, just to make sure everything is nice and clean. Now, once that dries again, we do want to make sure that does go back to a nice complete dry surface. We're going to use our protein bond. Protein bond is our bonder, and it works like a double-sided tape. So it's going to stick down to that natural nail, but then it's going to leave a sticky surface. So now if we look at the nail at this point, it's going to look dry and chalky. Once we put our protein bond on, then it's going to look sticky. That's exactly what we want. If we go to put our gel onto that dry, chalky nail, it's not going to have the best bond. By adding 2 coats of our protein bond, that's going to give us a really great bond with our product to the nail. And I also want to make sure that I'm not flooding that product on. We want a good even coverage, but we don't want to flood that on. That's why you notice that I start in the center of the nail, work out to the sides, and then back up to that cuticle area. So that way, again, we're not flooding it on. And also, I want to show you guys really quick, when I pick up that protein bond, I tap off that excess so that I'm not just picking up a fully loaded brush. See how much product is on there? It's almost going to drip off there. That is way too much. So tap off that extra, and then again, you would brush from the center out to the sides and then back towards that cuticle area. So again, this way you're not going to be touching that cuticle, you're not going to be exposing that skin to any product. Now you guys, this is an acid-free bonder. It's not a primer, so it's an acid-free bonder, but even though it doesn't have any of that methacrylic acid to it, you still want to make sure that you're keeping all of your products off of the client's skin and that cuticle area to avoid any contact dermatitis or allergic reactions and things like that. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your client nice and safe. And you guys, looks like there's a lot of newbies in the chat here, a lot of new people to our channel. So welcome in, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, continue to get free education, because you guys, that is what we're here for. We are here for education and to help make you guys do nails a little bit better. So hit that subscribe button. So what I'm going to start with is sculpting this nail out. And to sculpt our nail, we need our forms. So let me come back out here. So when we're sculpting a nail, we're going to build this out onto a form. I'm not actually putting a tip on today. We're going to build this nail from scratch. So if you haven't seen forms, if you're not sure how to work with them, you're going to start by just peeling that form off the backing. Take that little tab out of the center. You don't want to throw that away. Save that little tab. That's going to go right on the back side of your form. What that's going to do is that's going to give your form a little bit more durability so that when you put it on, it's not so flimsy feeling. And Anna Isabel, thank you so much for your contribution today. We so much appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So much appreciated. And you guys, thank you again, all the subscribers and everybody that's joined our channel. You guys, we appreciate you guys so much. So thank you all for that. All right, next thing we're going to do after we put that little tab on the back, we're going to pinch our 2 silver tabs of our form together and bring those together as evenly as we possibly can. This way our form is going to end up nice and straight, and it's not going to be lopsided or crooked or anything like that. If you pinch that form together and those tabs are off, if they're not perfectly even, then there's a chance that you're going to have a crooked nail. And we don't want to build a crooked nail. We want to build a nice straight nail. So making sure those tabs are pinched together. We also have a little perforation through the top part of our form. We're going to open that perforation up. We're going to bring our form up underneath here. Oh my gosh, Monty Pep, thank you. Thank you, thank you. You guys are so generous today. My gosh, you guys, thank you so much. Let's get back to education. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And hopefully you're going to get the education that you're wanting today. I love it, you guys. Thank you so much. So we're going to start with our form at a slight downward angle to the nail. We're not going to just shove that form right up underneath there. Let me come a little closer here. So again, we're going to start at that slight downward angle, and that's going to just catch that catch that natural nail up underneath there, and then we'll lift up on that form until it's coming straight out. I'm going to turn that on the side so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So again, we're going to start at a slight downward angle, catch that form underneath the nail, and lift up. That form is going to come right up underneath that natural nail, and then we're going to bring that form nice and straight out. And then you can secure that down on the sides. So now if we look again from the side, you're going to see that that form, it actually looks like it's just slightly angling downward, but we're going to do a little bit of a shorter nail. So I'm going to pinch that. And you're going to notice that as I pinch that shorter, it's going to lift that form up a little bit at the end. So just kind of keep that in mind as you are putting your forms on. Now you can see, let me grab my orange wood stick here. Keep an eye on that light reflection. You see that light reflection right there? That's actually going to be our guide for when we're building our nail out. So that is where our product is going to sit. So right along that light reflected line, that's going to be our lower arch. And now that lower arch is coming nice and straight out from that nail. Before it was angling down just slightly, but as we pinch that form, it raises that end up just a little bit. So it raises it from down here, raises it up as you pinch that shorter. Okay, so just a really quick, easy trick on how to get your form nice and straight. And you guys look at that. That is not straight at all. If we look at this form, I want to make sure that my form is straight in line with the finger. Let me turn that finger a little bit there for you guys. If I line up my orange wood stick all the way from that top knuckle up here, all the way through the end of that form is really crooked. So I want to make sure that I straighten that out before I do any sculpting. So I'm going to open it up on the sides and just shift that over a little bit, making sure that that's nice and straight. Secure that on the sides. Now if I line up my orange wood stick, now I can see that that form is coming straight out from that free edge. So it really is important to check your form. Make sure from the side view that it's coming out nice and straight. Make sure from straight on it's nice and straight. And then also if you look down the barrel of it, it should be flush up underneath that natural nail. There shouldn't be any gaps or separation in between that form and that natural nail. Okay, so just some ways of making your forms a little bit more perfect. I'm even going to come underneath here. You guys, let me bring that back there. I'm going to come underneath here and just pinch that form a little bit more underneath. So we've got, whoops, let's slip just a little bit. So we've got a little bit of a tighter curve to our form and it doesn't look so bowed out on the sides. Okay, so those are some tricks on how to get your form on. Let's get into the actual gel application. Now I'm going to be using a little ceramic tile, and you guys, this is just something from the, you can get at the hardware store, just a ceramic tile. And I like to use that to help to keep my brush clean. And the brush I'm using is our Pro Gel Sculptor, and this comes in 2 pieces. So you have a cover and you also have a handle. So just those 2 pieces to help you, again, keeping your brush nice and clean. You can put that cover back on when you're done, and then you've got that handle for your brush. So nice and easy, but I do use the tile to keep my brush nice and clean. So as I'm working, I can wipe my brush out, get any extra gel out of there if I need to. It's not like acrylic where you're wiping and cleaning on a towel. You actually want to leave a little bit of gel in your brush all the time. You can see, if I come in nice and close here, there is a little bit of gel in there. You can kind of see that, that sticky residue in there. With our gel, we don't want to clean out that gel completely from our brush every time. Keeping a little bit of that gel in our brush is going to help to keep that brush conditioned. It's going to help to keep those bristles together. So always make sure, work with your ceramic tile here, keep your brush nice and clean. Now we're going to be working with our concealer pink. And the one that I'm going to be using today is in the Precision Applicator tube. If you are a beginner, especially if you're a beginner, I do recommend using the tubes. I'm going to show you some of our gels in the little jars after a while here, but I'm going to start with that concealer pink in the tube. I feel like the tubes are a lot easier, again, especially if you're a beginner, to learn how to work with the gel. So let me come in nice and close here. So when you're working with the Precision Applicator tube, we're going to start by sculpting out just the free edge. So I'm going to squeeze a little bit of that gel right in the center. Do you guys see there's a bold line right down the center of my form? That's where I'm going to start my position with the nozzle of my gel applicator here. So we're going to squeeze out a little bit of gel right there in front of that natural nail, and just a small pearl of it, because at this point all we're trying to do is build out an extension. We're not trying to build out structure or anything like that. And I'm going to use the nozzle, and do you guys, if I turn that on the side, do you see how there's a little bit of a string? You see that little string between the gel and the nozzle? Keep that string connected. Keep your nozzle connected to the gel, but just on the surface of the gel. Do you see how I'm keeping my nozzle right on the surface? I'm not putting pressure into it. That's going to be too much pressure, and that's not going to give you a nice smooth application. If you stay on the surface, then you're going to be able to drag and move your product where you want it without creating a mess. And I think that's a big challenge with using gels, especially as a beginner, is people tend to make too much of a mess. And so hopefully today I'm going to be able to show you some techniques where you're not going to make a mess and your gel applications are going to be a lot easier. If you learn how to work with the gel and actually make the gel work for you, your gel applications are going to be so much easier. So I'm going to just come through, and again, just floating on the surface, either moving up and down, back and forth, side to side. However you need to work with that. I'm going to work in a little bit of a circular motion, but I'm staying just on the surface. And we're going to bring that gel right up to that natural nail. I'm going to turn the nozzle. So now here I'm at kind of a 90 degree, we'll say a 90-degree angle. When I come to that side, bring that nozzle down a little bit so you're coming in from more of that side angle. And then you can bring that gel, and again, I have that little string of gel all the way up into the corner, and then just gently floating it downward. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing, stay connected. I'm going to bring a little bit more of that gel over to the side. Now on this side, it's a little harder for me to get that angle down here. I'm going to put my brush down here. So you may need to turn that finger a little bit to work down into that side. Now, if you feel like you need more gel, maybe you feel like it's not, you're not getting enough all the way over to the side there, I can squeeze out a little bit more right in the center and then bring that out to the side, turn that on the side, and bring that gel all the way down to the edge. And then again, just floating that down the length of the nail. Now, I think somebody was asking in the chat, don't you start with the base gel? And yes, you do on the natural nail, and I promise I will get to that. So just be patient. If you know that you should start with the base gel, that is definitely a great thing to know, and I will talk about that in just a second here. But I'm going to go through and just start to shape that nail, shape that extension, and create the shape that I want. And today we're going to be working with, I'm going to do just more of an almond shaped nail today. We're not going to get too wild and crazy here. Now you can see on the sides, my gel isn't perfectly straight and even all the way up into the corner here. On this side, it's kind of hanging down a little bit. That's where I will use my brush. And I want to make sure, again, that my brush is nice and clean. So I'm going to wipe out any extra gel that's in the brush. And then I'm going to use the edge of the brush. Now, if you guys take a look, if you look from the side, our gel brush has a little bit of a crimp right in the ferrule. So right in that area that's holding those bristles, it does have a little bit of a crimp in it. So you always want to make sure that you're working with that brush flat with that crimp. You're not working on the edge of the brush, okay? The only time you're really going to be using that edge of the brush is at this point here to clean up those lower arches. So I'm going to turn my brush around, and you can pull from this direction or this direction. I'm going to show you the reason why I would use both. But you're going to use that edge of the brush, you're going to set that down onto your form and pull straight back so that you're pulling that gel right back up into that little corner. So right back up into here, we're filling in that space. And I think I used a little too much pressure, so I'm going to bring a little bit more of that product back over to the side here. And I'm going to wipe out my brush. Now, the reason that I pull my brush in this direction is because I needed to bring product back up into the corner. If I needed to take product out of that corner or bring product down into that free edge, then I would turn my brush still on the side and then I would pull forward. So whichever direction you're pulling, that's where you're pulling product to. So again, if I need to bring product back up into my corner, I'm going to pull back to my corner. If I need to bring product down to my free edge, I'm going to pull towards my free edge, still using that edge of the brush. And again, I do clean out my brush as I work. Same thing on this side. I'm going to turn my brush around. I'm going to pull that product back up into the corner and just feather that in there. And here I'm going to pull that product down towards the free edge. So this is how you're going to really be able to get those lower arches and those sides of your nail nice and straight. So you're not going to have a whole lot of filing to do at the end. You're going to have a little bit to do, but it's going to make those lower arches much straighter in the long run. Okay, so we're going to get this back into the light now. And I'm going to cure that for about 30 seconds. So you can see we've got the hand in the light. Again, I'm going to clean out my brush. Now, for whoever that was asking about base gel, yes, base gel is our first layer that we really want to use on the natural nail. I don't need it so much on the free edge, but what base is base is designed to bond the best to that natural nail. So that's why we always want to start with base on the natural nail. Now, we've got concealer pink base, which is what we're going to use today because I'm using the concealer pink gel, but we also do have the base in a clear. Now you guys, mine does have a little bit of glitter down at the bottom because I use this a lot with my dimensional nails, but don't worry about that. It sinks to the bottom. It's not contaminating your gel or anything like that. But again, we do have the clear, we have the concealer pink, we also have a concealer peach base because we have a concealer peach gel. And I guess I don't have that one out here today. But you're going to notice when I use any of the base gels, let me come in here. I don't use a lot of these, okay? I'm going to clean out my brush one more time here. To pick up the base gel, I just use my brush at about a 45-degree angle and I touch the surface of the base. I'm going to glide my brush through that and then lift up. You see that little string that's hanging there? I'm going to just take that string. If it doesn't disconnect on its own like it's doing here, I'm going to just tap that on the side. You don't want to just pick up that gel and just run that string all the way across and out of the jar because that's going to get down along the edges of your jar and it's going to make a mess all over. Okay, so you want to stay nice and clean with your gels. So again, touch the surface, drag your brush across, turn your brush up, tap off that string, and even this amount is probably more than what I need for this small nail. So I'm even going to take off a little bit more of that. So I only need a small amount. Our base gel is designed to give the best bond and adhesion for your gel to the nail. So I'm going to take this small amount, just like we did with our protein bond. I'm going to start in the center of the nail. I'm going to apply some pressure with my brush. I'm going to brush that out to the sides and then back towards our cuticle. We're only applying this very thin because we're not trying to build up structure with the base. The purpose of the base is just to give adhesion. It's not to build structure. If you try to build your base gel too thick, it's probably going to build up some excess heat on that nail when you cure it. So you want to make sure that you're keeping it nice and thin. And then also, if you take a look at the nail from the side view, you can see there's a little bit of a ledge right through here. So right where that natural nail and that free edge connect, if you do have that ledge, you can take just a small amount more. So I just tap the surface of that, turn my brush over and dab that off. So I'm going to take that tiny little bit of gel and just touch that right around that seam. So that way I know that I've got a really good connection of my product to the nail. And then we'll go ahead and cure this, okay? Now, those of you that are new to our channel, make sure you subscribe while I'm doing our cure in here. And, oops, let me turn on my light here really quick. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. But you guys, the reason that I did that last little bit right at that seam there, right at that edge, is so that when we go to take our form off, we're not going to crack that extension off the nail. And you'll see here in just a little bit what I mean by that. So I'm going to close my base back up. That's all that we really need to use our base for. Again, we're not using the base to build structure. We're not using that to create thickness on the nail. All we're using that for is to bond that product to the nail. So at this point, you guys, take a look from the side. We really have very thin product here. We don't have a lot of structure at all. So we do need to build up product. We need to build that structure. But before I do that, I'm going to remove my form. I'm going to pinch that together underneath, pop that form away. And the reason that we take our form off is so that the light can cure your gel from underneath and from all the way through the top. So you're going to get a much better cure all the way through if you're able to remove that form. Now, we did clean up our lower arches pretty well with our brush when we had that form on, but if you have any little bits of that gel hanging down, we've got this little extra point right down here on the end. You can use a couple of different tools. If you've got a straight edge toenail clipper, I love to use my straight edge toenail clipper. I'll come in and clip off any little bits that may be hanging from the side. You don't want to be using, you guys, let me show you this. You don't want to be using a toenail clipper with a rounded edge. You want to make sure that you're using that straight edge so that you get those straight lines. The straight edge toenail clipper, if you clip along the edges here, there's really not much to clip there, but if you clip right along the edges here, you're going to get a nice straight line. If you try to use that rounded edge to clip on the side here, you're probably going to end up cracking your product, and then you're going to really have to just start again, okay? So make sure that if you're using your toenail clipper, make sure it's a straight edge toenail clipper to clip off those edges. And if you don't have a straight edge toenail clipper, you can use a cuticle nipper, but you guys, I'm going to tell you, don't use your brand new, really nice and sharp ones that you use on your cuticles. Using a nipper for cutting your gel is going to dull it a little bit. So use either an acrylic nipper or one that you've used and kind of worn down from your cuticles so that you're not going to be dulling that on your gel. Now, I like to use the nipper here when I come right into my edges. So you can see I'm clipping right up into that corner so that product is coming nice and straight out. Same thing over here. I do have a little tiny little bit that's hanging off the edge here. There we go. And then this little tiny bit that's hanging off the free edge here, we're gonna clip that off and we're good to go. So now at this point, we already have a nice shape to our nail. Now we just need to build up the structure to our nail. So let me put my toenail clippers away and find my concealer pink. So we're gonna go back again to that concealer pink in the precision applicator tube, and we're gonna use this to build the structure. Now, let's come in nice and close again so you guys can see. I want you guys to notice the angle of the finger, okay? I've got that finger angled downward. I don't have that finger flat. If you're putting your gel on while the nail is flat, what's going to happen is it's going to start to run down the sides. If we keep that nail at a downward angle, when we put our gel on, that gel is going to have more of a tendency to flow down the length of the nail rather than back towards the cuticle or the sides. We want to make sure, if you are working with gel especially, gel is a self-leveling product, so you want to make sure that you're keeping it on the nail and it's not running off into that cuticle or the sides, okay? Now, we're going to start, again, at that downward angle, and I'm going to squeeze out some gel onto the nail. Now, notice I'm not touching that applicator to the nail. I'm staying a little ways away because I want to build up thickness. If I were to, let me just show you here on the tile. If I were to show you from the side view. So if I were to touch my, my nozzle here to the tile and I squeeze out product, it's going to go on really flat. Okay, there's not a whole lot of thickness there. See, you guys, if I show you guys that from the side view, you can see there's not a lot of thickness. But if I hold that up a little ways and I'm not touching the tile, I can create a lot more bulk. I can create a lot more thickness. So again, if you're trying to create thickness, you don't want to be touching your nail while you squeeze out product. You want to be a little higher up and let that product just create that thickness there, okay? So let's go into actually applying this then. So we're going to start by squeezing out some product right at that cuticle area, and I'm going to squeeze a good amount. And now notice again, I'm not right at the cuticle area. I'm a little ways away so that I can get that product up close to the cuticle without touching, okay? I'm going to take my applicator here and I'm going to bring that product to the left side. So I'm going to work in a circular motion to the left. So a counterclockwise circular motion. If I'm bringing product to the right, I'm going to work in a clockwise circular motion, circling to the right. That's going to help you bring that product to the edges. Again, I'm staying on the surface of it and just gliding that product over to the edges. I'm not putting pressure down into that product. So stay on the surface. That's one of the big keys of working with gel, is staying on the surface and floating that product. It's not like acrylic. We don't want to be pressing and smoothing this. All we want to do is float. So you can see around that cuticle area, I was using those circular motions. And then to bring my product down the length of the nail, I'm doing just like a back and forth or side to side motion. And again, using that little string. You see how I've got that little string of gel? Using that to just pull that little string wherever you want. Now, you guys, here's already the start of a smile line. So if you were going to be doing a smile line, that's a whole nother video for another time, or a whole nother demo for another time. But this is really how you would start shaping that smile line. We're going to bring product all the way down to the point of our nail here. But right now, if I tried to bring all of this product all the way down to the point, that would get too thin. So I need to add a little bit more product. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to squeeze out a little bit more, just like I did back by the cuticle area. Connect it to what I already have. And then again, moving that from side to side, using that little string to just pull that product, and then feathering that all the way down the length of the nail. Again, if you need to add more product, come back to the center, squeeze out a little bit more, and then bring that down. I always add more when I'm at the center of the nail, right in here, or all the way up here or here, but in that center of the nail, so that way I'm not trying to add a lot of product at the edges, because if you add too much at the edges, it's going to have more of a tendency to run down those sides. So add your product right in the center, and again, just feathering that lightly. I'm barely even touching the surface of my product, but just barely feathering that all the way down towards the end of the nail. And then just lightening up my pressure, lightening up my pressure. And the lighter I use, or the less pressure I use, the more my applicator is going to release from that gel. And then we can stop movement. Okay. Again, you guys, make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and I'll show you our next step. So if we take a look, we got a little bit of a flat area right through the center here. That's okay. We're going to go ahead and add a little bit more, but I'm going to grab my brush, and I'm going to use my brush to just gently tuck up around that cuticle area if I need to, tuck anything in along those sides. Bring your product as close as you can get to that cuticle and sidewall without touching. Now, if you don't have to use your brush at this point, you don't have to. I mean, just don't worry about it. If you need to touch up anything, go ahead and touch up. But if everything looks like where you want it, just get this nail right back into the light to freeze. Okay. So again, let's go ahead into the light. I'm going to just freeze this time for 30 seconds. Oops, I guess I have to turn on my light. So this time we're going to go into the light for 30 seconds. We're going to freeze that product into place, and then we'll add a little bit more. But it does help to freeze your product so that when you add a little bit more, you're not going to smudge or move what's already on there. And it also gives that product a little bit of a start to curing so that it does cure all the way through fully. So again, just another 30-second freeze here, and we will add a little bit more of our product. All right, that was our 30 seconds. So again, if we take a look at this from the side view, you can see that our product is nice and thin and tapered right down back by that cuticle area. It's coming up to the start of an arch right through here. It's looking like it's maybe a little bit bulky right through this point right here. So what we want to happen is I want to clean out my brush. There's a little fuzz on there. I want my product to come at this type of an angle. So again, flush down to that cuticle area, take out a little bit of this bulk here, but we want to make sure that our arch, our apex, our highest point is right here through the stress area. The stress area, you guys, I'm going to show you something, and I've got color on my nails here, but to find where your actual stress area is, if you take your nail, put pressure right on the free edge. So if I were to put pressure and press down on my free edge, you'll see a little area right through here that almost turns white. okay, on a natural nail, without color on or anything like that. That's how you'll be able to see that. But when you put pressure there, that area right through here is going to turn white. That right there is your stress area. So if you were to jam your nail or bump your nail or anything like that, that area that turns white is your stress area, and that's where all of that pressure is going to go. And that's why we have a tendency to crack our nails, if they're not built properly, to crack our nails right through here if, again, there's not enough structure. So at this point, what we want to do is build up structure. So I'm going to add just a little bit more of our product right through that arch. I'm going to squeeze just a line of that right down the center, and then blend that out to the sides. Now I'm leaving the majority of the bulk right through that center area, but just blending out those edges to just make sure everything goes nice and smooth. And then tapering off the back all the way around. Again, if you need to, just like I was using the nozzle of my applicator, I can use the tip of my brush here and just float over the surface of that to guide that product into place. So anywhere you need to move that product, just very gentle, almost not even really any pressure, just basically making contact with that gel and then guiding it into place. Okay. At this point, I'm going to take a look. Looks like we've got a little bit better of an arch in here. Now, does this nail look perfect? Absolutely not. Are we going to do a little bit of filing to make it perfect? Absolutely yes. So at this point, all we were trying to do was just build up that arch a little bit more, create some structure in that nail. And now we're going to put that nail into the light to fully cure. So that's going to go in there for 60 seconds. You want to make sure that you are fully curing it at this point so that you can file without having any uncured gel underneath there. Now you guys, at this point, I'm going to be done with my brush, so I always want to make sure that I clean out my brush. So I'm just going to use that tile again, wipe out any of that gel that's in there, bring that brush back to a little bit more of an oval or a rounded shape, and then we can take that back end off, close up our brush, and now our brush is nice and clean, and it's going to stay nice and clean so that you're not going to get any dust on there or anything as you're filing. Now I am going to clean off my little tile here. I'm just going to take one of our lint-free, this is actually the table towels here, I just cut them into smaller pieces. I'm going to use a little bit of either my swipe or polish remover, and we're going to clean off our tile here, because I am going to be using this tile a little bit later for just a really quick little design I'm going to show you guys at the end here. So make sure to stick around, make sure to subscribe, make sure to hang out with us for a little bit longer. Now at this point, our nail is fully cured out, but it does have a tacky surface to it. When gel cures, it does tend to cure with that tacky surface. So we need to use our swipe. And this time, instead of using swipe with my manicure brush, I'm going to take one of our lint-free wipes and I'm going to pump a little bit of that up onto the lint-free wipe, and then we'll cleanse that nail and remove that tacky finish. Whoops, you guys don't pull your client's fingers out of their socket. Make sure that nail stays up in there. You guys, I'm going to just pop that in there real quick. All right, so we're going to file this nail out really quick, and then we'll do a fun little design for you. But anytime I file, I always want to make sure that I take my dust collector and I use my dust collector to really make sure that I'm not getting any filing dust up into my breathing zone. So I'm going to switch my bit from my sanding band to our X-Cut carbide. And if you feel more comfortable, you can use the safety bit course. You guys, these are basically the same bit. It's just that the safety bit has that rounded top. So maybe if you're a beginner, it might be a little bit easier for you to use that rounded top. Whoops, turn my dust collector back on there. And we're going to turn our E-file up to, I would say, about 12 to 15,000 for our gel. If you're working with acrylic, you can work a little bit higher, but for a gel nail, it's a little bit of a softer product, so you can use a little bit of a lower speed. I'm just going to go through, straighten out my sidewalls. We've already cleaned up that lower arch, and this is where using that toenail clipper, that straight edge toenail clipper, or the cuticle, or sorry, not the cuticle pusher, the nippers, where that helps as you're sculpting that nail, so you don't have as much product to remove or as much filing to do at this point. So we're just going to come up around that cuticle area, thinning and tapering. So now we're going to get that arch right where we want it. So we took out that little bit of bulk that was coming in right through here. I'm going to go all the way down the arch of the nail here, making sure that our product is nice and thin at the cuticle area, a little thicker right through the top arch, and nice and thin down at the point of our nail. This is the structure that we want to keep in really any enhancement that we're doing. We want that cuticle area nice and thin, we want the free edge nice and thin, but we want that little bit of arch to our nail. I'm going to turn that around. I'm going to look straight down the barrel of the nail, pull my bit towards myself, making sure that everything is nice and smooth and even, contouring all the way through. And I think we're looking about right. I'm going to go through one more time, I think, from that side view, just to make sure everything is nice and even. Okay. I am going to switch my bit back to my sanding band. So that medium grit sanding band that I use to prep the natural nails, I like to use this one to really refine, especially around my cuticle area. And with gel especially, it works really, really well because it's going to really taper in and smooth out that product so that you don't have a ridge of product all the way around. So you want to make sure that that product is going flush down to that natural nail. There's nothing that your client is going to pick around the edges, nothing, nothing that's going to get caught around that edge there. And then I'm going to go through all the way through, really making sure that my product is nice and smooth and even. And guys, I apologize. I feel like my voice is starting to get a little bit scratchy here, so bear with me. If I lose my voice, I'll keep on going with the nail and we'll do the best that we can here. All right, I think we're good with our electric file. So with the electric file, that's where we're going to take down the bulk of our product, and then we can switch over to our hand file to do a little bit more refining. Now, when you grab a brand new file, always have a prep file on hand. So your prep file is what you're going to use to remove the sharp edges from a file. Now, you guys, I have removed the sharp edges from this before, but I do want to make sure to show you that anytime you grab a brand new file, use your prep file to remove those sharp edges all the way around the top edge, and just slightly angle that so that you're catching all of those sharp edges. You should be able to run your finger or run your hand over this side without it feeling sharp, so that you're not going to cut your client, you're not going to cut their skin around their cuticles, especially when you're working around the perimeter, especially around the sides here like I'm working, straightening out those sides. If you did not remove that sharp edge, there is a good chance that you could be cutting your client's skin around here, okay? So make sure that you're doing that precaution really, really just every time you take a brand new file, okay? We're going to straighten out those lower arches. Same thing on the other side here, straighten out the lower arches. And then we'll come up around our cuticle area, tapering everything in. And you guys, if you need a little bit more insight on your filing techniques, we have some great videos here on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe. We have over 3,000 videos of free education here for you. So check out all of our videos here, subscribe to the channel, take advantage of all of this education that we're giving you, whether you are a nail tech, whether you are a DIYer, wherever you're at, make sure you don't miss out on all of this education. All right, I'm going to turn that nail around one last time here, and I'm going to look from my client's perspective. I want to see the nail from her view, because she's going to look at her nails like this, okay? So I want to make sure that I'm keeping everything nice and straight, keeping everything even, so that if she were to see a high spot or a low spot or a lump or a bump, I don't want her to see that. I want to see that first. So I want to make sure everything is nice and smooth and even. So I'm just going to go through, float my file all the way through, making sure everything is nice and smooth. And also checking my shape from this view one last time, because again, that's how she is going to see her nail. All right. And we'll take a look here. Okay, I think we're looking good from that view. I think we're good to go there. So let's go ahead and turn off our dust collector. And do you guys want to see a fun spring design? Let me know in the chat. Do you want to see a spring design, or should I just top coat this? I have a feeling I know what you're going to choose, but let me know in the chat. Lynn Love is asking, is that a 100 grit file? The file that I was using to do my shaping is a 150 grit. The file that I used for prepping, that was a 100 grit. So prepping my file, that's 100 grit. I find that, especially with gels, gel is a little bit of a softer product. So I don't generally use anything more coarse than the 150. I think 150 is more than enough for your gel applications. All right, I'm seeing some spring designs. You guys want to see some spring designs? So it's not really a flowery design or anything like that today, but just something a little bit fun to show you how to use our gel polishes, because we used our hard gels to sculpt and build this nail. So let's go ahead and use our gel polishes to create a design. So we're going to go through again, cleansing our nail with our swipe. Pump a little bit of that onto the manicure brush, really making sure that nail is nice and clean. Clean that from underneath as well. And as some of you are suggesting, I'm going to grab a sip of water here really quick. Okay, so now I think we can carry on. I'll make it through the rest of our design here. All right, so we cleanse the nail with our swipe. I do want to make sure that the nail does go back to that dry, chalky look, just like when we had prepped that natural nail. We always want to make sure that we are working on a nice, clean, dry surface. And at this point, we're going to go back to that protein bond again, and we're going to add one more coat. When you're working with your gel polishes, you want to make sure that you're, again, applying them to a clean, dry surface. I've got a little bit of a dust particle on the side there, I think. But we want to be applying it to a dry surface, a textured surface, or a tacky surface. So at this point, we've got a textured surface. Let's add a tacky surface with our protein bond, just for that added adhesion, for that added insurance that our product is going to adhere really well. So I'm going to apply one coat of our protein bond all the way through that whole nail. That's going to give us that really great adhesion. And now you guys, somebody says, oh, what was it? The nail looks amazing. You guys, again, we've filed out this nail into that proper structure, and it really was an easy application with our hard gel. So just learning some of these techniques that I was showing you guys earlier today is going to help you when you are sculpting your gel nails. All right, so two colors that we've got of our gel polish. I'm working with our Manicure Color today. So Manicure Color is our 3-step gel polish system. It is a soft gel, so it can be soaked off, but it comes as a set, or not really a set, it comes as a 3-step system. So we've got a base coat, we've got the colors, and then we've also got a top coat. So again, all of these are soft gels. They can all be soaked off. When you're working over an enhancement like we're working on today, we don't need to use that base coat. We can go right into our gel polish because we've already got that protein bond on there. We've got a really great, surface for our product to adhere to. All right, so we've got our two colors. We're going to do just a really simple spring ombre, but it's not going to be your across the nail ombre. It's going to be a vertical ombre. Did I say that right? It's not going to be a horizontal ombre. It's going to be a vertical ombre. And again, I've got my ceramic tile down here on my table. I'm going to start with my magenta 101, and I like to start about halfway up the nail, so this way I can really cap that sidewall. And if I need to cap that free edge a little bit, I can do that. Just brushing halfway. Now you guys, that's actually the start of kind of another pretty design. You could even just draw a quick little line, maybe a black line straight across here, straight down there. That'd be a fun design in itself. But we're going to just do an ombre today, so I'm going to bring that product all the way back towards my cuticle. and bringing that down around the edge. Now, if you're having a challenge getting that product up at the cuticle area, especially when you're doing this kind of a design, you can take a little bit of that gel polish, put that right onto your tile. I'm going to grab my micro detailer. This is our super tiny little art brush. I'm going to take a little bit of that. I'm going to just draw that right in up at my cuticle area. So this way I can just fill that space in without getting product on the skin or trying to get my polish brush to fan out. Okay, so we've got half of our nail. We're going to take our second color, and that one is grapefruit. You guys, I love this color in the spring and summertime. Grapefruit is such a pretty color, kind of a tangerine-y, peachy grapefruit color. I mean, it's weird that they call it grapefruit, I know. But it's both of these colors have a little bit of shimmer to them. Grapefruit has a little bit more, I would say, a little more sparkle to it, whereas the magenta has more of a pearl to it. Then we're going to go right back towards our cuticle area. And now we're going to just connect those two. So connect those two colors. Now this is another reason that I have my tile here. If as I'm brushing through, if I get a little bit of that other color on my brush, I can just clean my brush out right on my tile before I go back into my bottle. So that way you're not going to contaminate one bottle with the other color. Now it looks like I've got a tiny little bit of product that came off the skin. I'm going to grab my orange wood stick, clean that up, and I'm going to find my brush that I was using for our application. So same brush, the Pro Gel Sculptor. I'm going to use this brush, and I'm just, again, make sure that's cleaned out, just very gently brushing from the cuticle and just feathering all the way through that nail. And this is going to help to blend those colors and create that beautiful ombre. And you guys, these two colors blend really well together because they are close on the color wheel, and they also have that little bit of shimmer to it. So sometimes I think that shimmer does help when you're blending colors together. Somehow it just brings those colors together a lot easier. So we've got that ombre down the center. I'm going to wipe out my brush here. We're going to get that into our light really quickly for maybe another 30-second freeze or so. And then we'll come back and we'll do a second coat. Now, again, you guys, make sure that you're cleaning out a good amount of that gel out of your brush so that you don't contaminate your design when you go on to your next layer. Okay, so make sure that your brush is nice and clean. Again, we're curing this for a 30-second freeze. Belinda Formosa, thank you so much. Oh my goodness, amazing. I appreciate you guys so much. Here at Young Nails, we appreciate you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Love to see that in the chat. You guys, if you haven't already though, make sure you hit subscribe, join our community, get all of this great education. Thank you guys so much. All right, so our second coat, we're gonna start, and you could start with either color. I just had the grapefruit close to me. So we're gonna take our second coat of grapefruit, again, just brushing through half of that nail. We're going to take our second coat of magenta, again, brushing through half of that nail, all the way back towards our cuticle area. Again, if you needed to, you could use the micro detailer brush to get a little bit closer to your sidewalls, closer to your cuticle area. I think we're good for now. So I'm just going to use my sculptor brush, blending those colors together just right down the middle and feathering, you guys. Not a lot of pressure, just barely touching the surface of that and blending those out. Okay, we're going to cure that another 30 seconds. I'm going to close up these colors, and then we're going to put a coat of our matte finish non-tack top coat on here. Now, you guys, don't worry, we're not quite done with this. Oops, where is my matte top coat? We're going to add some sparkle to this as well, because you guys all know that I can't do nails without some kind of sparkle. So we're going to grab our matte top coat. I'm also going to get Flash and Burn from our Slick Pour collection. So I'll tell you about Slick Pour in just a second here, but we are going to apply one coat of our matte non-tack top coat. And this is an amazing top coat because it dries with a complete matte surface. There's nothing to wipe off or cleanse, so you don't have to worry about that. And I think I had my nails in the light for longer than what's really necessary, so we'll go ahead and take those out. So again, we're going to put one coat of our matte top coat on, And you guys, you can change this up. If you want to do a shiny coat at this point, you could definitely do a shiny coat. I like to use the matte for this design because I feel like it gives us more definition. And we're going to do a little bit of sparkle on the top of this. So one coat of our matte top coat. This is going to go back into the light again for another 30 seconds. And you guys, I know at this point, it seems like there's a lot of back and forth and in and out of the light. But as you're working on a full set, you're going to have one hand in the light when you're working on the other hand. And then you're just going to alternate back and forth so that you're really not wasting any time. You just always have one hand in the light and you're working on the other hand. Oh my gosh, Belinda, thank you, thank you. You guys have been so generous today. I don't know what's going on in the world, but thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say any more than thank you. All right. So we've got our matte top coat on there. And you can see that it really has started to come to that beautiful matte finish. It's not completely fully cured, but you can already see the matte that it's going to be. Now, we're going to do our design, and I'm going to use our Ultimate Finish top coat. So I've got my Ultimate Finish. I'm going to make sure that my little tile here is nice and clean. I'm going to make a nice clean spot for me to use. And then also making sure that this is nice and dry. Squeaky clean there, you guys, squeaky clean. And I'm going to take a little bit of my Ultimate Finish top coat, and we're going to set that down onto my tile. I'm going to take my Flash and Burn. Again, this is Flash and Burn from our Slick Pour collection. Slick Pour is our dip collection, so it's not really a gel, but it works great as a sugared technique, which is what I'm going to show you here. So we've got our Slick Pour Flash and Burn. I've got, where is my brush here? Now I'm going to use our liner brush. So before I was using that micro detailer, that really teeny tiny brush, I'm going to use just a little bit of a larger brush. Personal preference, whatever one you want to work with, that is up to you. I'm going to take a little bit of that Ultimate Finish top coat and we're going to draw in a design. Now the reason that I'm using the Ultimate Finish is because Ultimate Finish has a tack-free finish. So again, you're not going to have to cleanse anything or wipe anything off of this surface. Oh, we'll create this. And it's kind of fun when you're working with the shiny on the mat to really enhance those colors, and it's just a fun technique. So I'm just drawing on a little design with my top coat. Now it is a little bit tricky to see sometimes, so you may have to rotate the finger a little bit and just to be able to see right where you are polishing on that color. And I think we'll just go with that. And you guys, you can create your own designs however you want to, just to give you a little bit of an idea. And then we're going to take our Slick Pour and we're going to sprinkle that right into that wet top coat. Now you guys, again, this is our Ultimate Finish top coat. It is a tack-free top coat. Underneath we had the tack-free matte top coat. So our glitter and our Slick Pour is only going to adhere where we have that wet top coat. I'm going to tap off some of that extra. Now we're going to go into our light for a full 60-second cure, and we're going to cure that all the way through. Now you guys, those of you that are regulars to our channel, I forgot to tell you it was time for the top coat chant. So let's go ahead and do our top coat chant in the chat while this is curing. If you are new to our channel and you're not sure what we're talking about, just follow along. Everybody else is going to put the top coat chant in the chat. But if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can join our community here while we are curing this out for a full 60 seconds. But in the meantime, I do want to show you that brush that we were using still has a little bit of that gel polish in it. To clean that out, you could use that little bit of extra Ultimate Finish that's on your tile here. But I actually really like to use my, let me see if I can find it here, my base gel. So base gel is a little bit thicker than the Ultimate Finish that I had on here. And I feel like a little bit of the base gel is going to really pull any of that color out of your brush. So just start running your brush through that base And that's going to work out any of that extra gel polish that might be in here. And it looks like I did a pretty good job of cleaning out my brush, but some colors are a little bit more pigmented than others, so you really want to make sure that you're pulling that clear gel through your brush to pull out any of those colors out of there. And then just removing some of that excess gel, and I'm just using clean spaces on my tile here to pull some of that extra gel out of there. And now our brush is nice and clean. I'm going to bring that back to that point. We're going to cap our brush here really quick, and our nail is fully cured out. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that. Again, you guys, fully cure that for 60 seconds. We're going to use our manicure brush, dust off that extra, and you've got a beautiful ombre underneath with a really super fun sugared sparkly look on top. Now you guys, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and top coat over this to do a shiny finish to it. Personal preference, whatever you want your design to look like, but I think for today we're going to leave it with the matte and then the sparkly on top. So you guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Join our community, join all of our communities here on social media, join our text community. And you guys, thank you so much for joining us today. If you do try this design, or if you do any of the inspiration that we show you guys and you post them on your social media, make sure that you tag us in that so that we can see exactly what you're doing. Make sure that, you know, we want to see that you're using our inspiration and see how you're creating. So thank you guys so much again. We will see you guys back next time. We're usually here 3 days a week, so join us. Make sure to set your notifications and subscribe to our channel. Thanks, everybody. Have a great